the most dependent on the domestic economy. Whereas when you look at China, right, 35% of their stuff is exported. They're exported where? To Europe and the US. Right? Partly to Africa now, well, Europe, part of Asia, but the big buyers are the US and Europe. So the problem is that if you have a crisis and these economies slow down, then China gets hurt. So what's the policy that China is following today? They're looking inward. Right? The entire China growth model has changed. And if you just look at, I know how many people travel in China? China? Okay. Well, I wish I could draw over or have a map of China here. Earlier, if you look at think of the China map, I mean, there's some southern coast here, which was the growth center. Those were the export industries, right? Shanghai and so on. If you look at recent growth numbers, growth in those segments dropped off. It's really the interior which is driving the momentum. And industries in the interior are really focused on exploiting the local market. So China is looking increasingly at the domestic market to insulate itself from the kind of cyclical movements that can take place in the West. But in India, we realize that, well, this helped us. We didn't get too badly hurt by the crisis. But somewhere, we really haven't exploited our potential. The US and Europe are still very, very big markets. So while China is looking increasingly at its domestic market, while China is looking increasingly at its domestic market, India is looking increasingly at exporting and developing its export market. And one of the clear manifestations of this is the services sector, IT, where the Bangaloring of jobs is happening in a big way. So that's really it. So that's in Asia, I think what is happening is that there is a convergence taking place. Indonesia on the one hand want to export a bit more, and China which wants to sort of look increasingly at domestic opportunities. Any questions of this? Yes, sir?
When you say that India benchmarks with China in terms of GDP, how reflective is that? I understand that they both measure GDP.
Yeah, but there are some sort of uniform measures. For instance, you take the IMF. I mean, that sort of computes GDP on a reasonably standardized basis. So you can just compare India's GDP with not only China, but Angola or whatever. So there is some degree of standardization. But some issues remain. I mean, there are different ways in which they define foreign investment, for direct investment. Those are really technical issues. The bottom line is that China has 3 times the per capita GDP, whichever way you measure it, of India. Back to you. Any other questions? Which is the point, and this is the point I'm trying to make, is that, yeah, we sort of stayed relatively insulated compared to a lot of our peers in the region, but that doesn't mean that we've been a closed economy. We've sort of been integrating with the world in a very big way. And this is one way of sort of measuring it, by looking at private capital flows into India, looking at trade GDP ratio. It's been picking up very, very fast. And that again is where, from your perspective, you're all from outside India, and some of you, or many of you, would want to look at India from a business potential perspective. I mean, this should be, heartening in a sense that this is an economy which, through policy, through various other efforts, is very actively trying to engage with the world, both through trade and investment flows. And investment could be of various kinds. You could have direct investment in production facilities in India. where there's a lot happening. There is a lot of portfolio investment coming into it here. We have virtually all the large institutional investors, big like of Fidelity or Capital, and all coming into it here. Warren Buffett was incidentally here a couple of months. He's possibly the last to sort of come to it here of the big names. But there is very, very active engagement with the outside world.